We're back. I'm Elisa, and we're going through the digestive system. And this time, we're going to finish up the mucosa and the enteric nervous system. Right, so let's get started. Okay, so the enteric nervous system, we talked about where it's located in the general anatomy. And what it is a nervous network, like a generally plexagy, in the esophagus, stomach, intestines. And what it does is it regulates how active the motility is for the digestive system. It also regulates blood flow to some extent as well, and also sensitive to secretion, so it can help manage that a little bit. It's thought to have over 100 million neurons, and it can function independently of the central nervous system because it existed before the central nervous system. It's really interesting stuff. The central nervous system does influence to some extent, but it's considered to be part of the autonomic, or think of it as the automatic nervous system. The enteric nervous system is made up of two networks of neurons, and so the submucosal plexus and the mesenteric plexus. And so the submucosal plexus is deep, and it's in the submucosa, as you can imagine. It controls the glandular secretions of the mucus, as well as the teeny tiny motions of muscularis mucosae. So, like, it's about secretion on this one. Mesenteric plexus is a little bit different. So this is parasympathetic, right? Fight or flight, sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system, ganglia. So these fibers are going to be between the two layers of the muscularis externa. And so what this does is like that repeated pulsing, also known as peristalsis, are the contractions that kind of move food boluses through. The mesenteries, connective tissue sheets that are going to keep the stomach and the intestines in place in the abdominal wall. So we are standing upright as humans, and so we need to keep these the intestines specifically from kind of mixing up or falling on each other or just moving around too much. And so that's like what the mesenteries are doing. And so it's a little bit loose and bendy, and so that allows the stomach and the intestines to kind of like have contractions and move to some extent, but just not around too much. They also hold the abdominal viscera in place and in proper relationship to each other so they can exchange fluids or secretions. They prevent the intestines from becoming twisted and tangled whenever we move around, changing our body position. So it keeps everything exactly where we need to keep it. And it provides an area where the blood vessels themselves, as well as the nerves, can kind of go to and fro. It also sometimes has like lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes, and participates with the immune system. So the parietal peritoneum is a membrane of the serosa that's going to line the wall of the abdominal cavity, right? And so that kind of keeps everything in and together. And this definitely has a propensity to tear in folks. So it turns inward along the posterior midline, and it forms the posterior mesentery. And so it's like this two-layered membrane that has to extend to the digestive tract. And so the two layers of this mesentery are going to kind of burst apart, separate, and they're going to pass around through the opposite sides of whichever organ it is that's forming the serosa. So they also come together on the far side of the organ and continue on another sheet on the other side, and that is called the anterior mesentery. It's like it keeps things in place, but they also kind of hang a little bit loose or freely in the abdominal cavity, and they might end up attaching to the anterior wall of the abdomen, other organs, all of that. So the lesser omentum is like part of the mesentery itself. It's just kind of like a wing of it, and it extends specifically from stomach to the liver, which is a very important relationship, and we have to keep them right in orientation. The greater omentum, which is larger, is from the greater curvature of the stomach. So it's on the left side. We'll look at that in a little bit. And it looks like an apron. It connects it pretty well, actually, in this sheet-like fashion. And the inferior margin turns back on itself and then it kind of goes back in. So it kind of has this like weave to it. Um, what it does is it actually forms like kind of interestingly enough, this like pouch between the two layers in that case. And so the inner superior margin is going to form around the spleen and the transverse colon, right? We call it the mesocolon. And it's really fortunate because it's the body's part of the body's first line of defense against toxins and infections. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. And right, I guess we will continue on with the next video. And I hope you're out there somewhere having a great day. Bye bye.